The i20N and the i30N was proof that Hyundai wanted to make proper performance drivers cars, and they translated very well across to their electric offerings because of course we know how good the Ioniq 5N is, and of course the yet to be driven Ioniq 6N promises much as well. And when it came to design, it was the standard Ioniq 5 and Ioniq 6 that showed us Hyundai wanted to be taken very seriously when it came to style as well. And they really stood apart from their contemporaries and showed a new path for Hyundai. Well, now, having conquered performance drivers cars and stylish design, they're going after the premium market. And they're doing it with this, a large all-electric premium SUV, the Ioniq 9. Watch out Mercedes-Benz, BMW and Audi, because if this is as good as what they've managed to achieve lower down the rankings, then you guys are in for a real tough time. Welcome to this week's road test review, welcome to the new Hyundai Ioniq 9, and of course welcome to AutoEV. Now, before we get started on this week's review of Hyundai's Ioniq 9, I'm sorry, but I've got to say it, because there are still some of you out there that have yet to subscribe to the AutoEV channel. What's going on? Come on, guys. It only takes you a second. Just go and press the subscribe button and then it's done. Oh, but then just make sure you've turned on notifications, because then obviously you'll get an alert when the next video is uploaded and it's gone live. Once you watch the review, if you enjoy it, obviously I hope you do, give it a little thumbs up for us. And of course, as always, just leave us your thoughts in the comment section down below. Let me know what you think about the cars that feature on the channel, such as Hyundai's Ioniq 9 and of course on the AutoEV channel overall. Now, this is the second time I've got behind the wheel of an Ioniq 9, but in fairness, the first was to make its dynamic debut in the UK at the recent Goodwood Festival of Speed. But that's a 90-second drive up the sort of like the driveway of Goodwood House, so it doesn't really tell you an awful lot about the car. And in fairness, I was concentrating a little bit more on not crashing one of 5 cars that the Hyundai had in the UK in front of Hyundai's senior management team than I was of actually thinking about what it was actually like to drive. So I thought, let's get it back in. Let's have a proper review. Let's see what it's like. Because this is quite an important car for Hyundai, because this is obviously the flagship of the Ioniq range, their all-electric range. And we know how good that range has been. Obviously with the Ioniq 5, the Ioniq 6, even the non-Ioniq cars that are in their electric range, the Kona, the Insta. The Insta's a brilliant car. They're all really, really good cars. Hyundai are one of the people that just seem to have grasped electric mobility and really, really sort of like picked up the baton and ran with it, and they've delivered us car after car that's been brilliant. And of course, we've seen, as I say, they've moved into the performance divisions with the N division, which even with the combustion engine cars like the i20N, the i30N, brilliant hot hatches. And then of course the Ioniq 5N, a sensational car, our car of the year 2024. And of course we're looking forward to the new Ioniq 6N. But this is slightly different. This is a large premium, and I do mean premium because it's quite a price this. We'll get on to that later. 7-seat SUV. So can they do premium like they do sports, like they do good small cars like the Insta? Is the Ioniq 9 another slam dunk for Hyundai? And as I say, watch out, big German 3 premium brands? Or is it a stretch too far? So as always, let's take a look at the main bullet points before we start the full review. So previewed by the 7 concept, the new Ioniq 9 is Hyundai's flagship SUV, built on the company's now familiar dedicated EV platform, the 800-volt eGMP. It's available in both single motor rear-wheel drive and dual motor all-wheel drive formats. All models feature a 110 kWh battery for a range of up to 385 miles. Power ratings vary from 218 PS to 427 PS, depending on model. And prices start from just £65,000 to over £78,500, depending on model and specification chosen. Now, spending over £65,000 on a car wearing a Hyundai badge wasn't too difficult to grasp when it was as good as the Hyundai Ioniq 5N. But this is £80,000. Is it good enough? Well, of course, the only way we're going to find that out is by putting it through the road test that actual car buyers trust when it comes to choosing their next electric vehicle. It's still the AutoEV one. I keep telling you every week, every single week, and you still don't believe me. It is the AutoEV one. Now, the one thing I really love about Hyundai, especially over the last few years, has been their design language. And if you're unfamiliar with it, or you're unfamiliar with AutoEV and how we've talked about Hyundai's design in the past, it's what they refer to as their chess set. In other words, the cars don't have to look the same. They can play for the same team, but they don't have to look the same. There'll be some commonality between them. And Hyundai use the pixel for that. So you'll see pixel references all around the car, you know, in the lights and certain elements of the design and stuff like that. And that's across all the, sort of like the Ioniq range. Actually, it's not even just across the Ioniq range, because you can also see it in the small Kona when it's electric, and of course the Insta. So although the Insta in the UK is just an electric only model, abroad it's not. So it doesn't come under the Ioniq brand, if that makes sense. And the Ioniq 9 doesn't look like a bigger version of an Ioniq 5, which has got that brilliant 1980s sort of bitmap style about it, or the wonderful 1930s Raymond Loewy streamliner style that the Ioniq 6 has got. This has got its own look, but you'll see certain commonalities between it, as I say, some of the other models as well, especially the Kona, I think, around the front. This does remind me a little bit of the electric Kona, this sort of smooth sort of like front. There's some really, really neat lines here. They're really, really sharp, and I really like the way that that works. And as I say, you can see the pixel here in work. So you've got the DRLs that are mounted up there, of course, with your turn indicators, and then you've got your vertically stacked headlights down here, which again, they're just marked out by pixels. I love it, absolutely love it. Then you've got this sort of like plastic area around the front here, which is almost, it's a perspex, because you can actually see through it, because there's the sensor for the radar guided cruise control. I like the fact that they make it part of the design, the tech. Do you know what I mean? So you're looking at going, what is that? It's the sensor for the forward guided cruise control. But I like the fact that you can see the same on the mirrors as well. They're translucent covers that you can just see through. And as I say, you can see the sort of pixels underneath this sort of like smoothed over perspex bar here. Great big sort of like Hyundai badge across the bonnet with the matte sort of like silver finish, which is sort of like embossed sort of like down into the bonnet as well. But really, really neat piece of design, isn't it? Everything's vertical and horizontal. No curves as such, apart from the curvature up onto the bonnet with this really neat shut line there. Nicely integrated forward facing camera there, and of course down at the bottom you get the two flaps here that will obviously open and close to allow cooling airflow through into the battery if the battery needs it across down the bottom. But there, as I say, they will open and close of their own accord depending on when it's needed. And you still get your neatly embedded parking sensors as well in the black area there, so they don't really stand out as such. But I think we're off to a really good start. I really like the look of this car. And wait till we get round the side of it, because again, it doesn't really look like anything else that we've seen from Kia. From Hyundai. But there's other areas of it. As I say, you'll pick out certain bits from certain other models in the range. It's a really good piece of design. Now this is a big car, 5 metres long this car is, just over, and a 3.1 metre wheelbase. So lots of interior space, which also we'll get to talk about. Now, it depends on the spec of the car to depend on how the car looks visually on the side. Couple of things. Wheel sizes, 19-inch wheels on the lead-in premium, then you move up to 20 inches on the ultimate, or 21-inch on this calligraphy model here. The other difference is this wheel arch area here, which is a bit odd actually, because on the lead-in premium car, this whole section here is blacked out, so it's black, you know, that you would get like a normal black, so like wheel arch extensions on an SUV. But then if you go for the ultimate model, they're still black, but then this part in here becomes body colour. And then if you go for a calligraphy like this, the whole thing becomes body colour. That's the only bit to me that looks a little bit fussy. I don't understand with this sort of like infill in here. I understand going from maybe black to colour coded, but just a little bit odd for me. But there we go. I do like this line though. See how this line just comes up from the front there, round the base of the headlights, and then it's this indentation that runs the length of the car. That's really nice. I really like that. And then the door panel itself comes in a little bit here, and then you've got this standout gloss black part of the sill there, and obviously that helps break up the large sort of like section of body you've got there. Tall car as well. I think it's 1.85 metres tall. Neatly integrated roof rails as well, you know, to help with the aero work. Talking of aerodynamics, you'll notice these digital door mirrors don't bother your backside as far as I'm concerned. We'll talk a bit more about them when we're inside. They do help contribute to lowering the aerodynamic drag coefficient of the car, which is 0.27 with the standard mirror. I think it drops it under to 0.26 something with these. They're £1,000 and I genuinely wouldn't bother. But I'll talk a bit more about it later. The only thing I will say about them is I quite like the design of them. The translucent sort of like cover, as I say earlier, and you can see the sort of like the side repeaters just wrapped around, and they've got a neatly integrated camera for your blind spot there. But genuinely, we'll talk a bit more about it inside the car, but waste of money. Integrated flush door handles, okay, so they pop out when you lock. When you unlock the car, and they'll go back in when they unlock it. And again, they're embossed with Ioniq 9 badging there. Privacy glass as you'd expect, but look at the design of it. Look at the way the roof line swoops down to the back there. Really proper aero work for a big SUV. Now, as I say, this was previewed by a concept car called the 7, but it's come out as Ioniq 9. Why? Well, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that Kia do the EV9, which obviously shares a platform with this car, and they wouldn't have wanted to call this Ioniq 7 because 7 was a lesser number, and they wouldn't want to see it as a lesser car to the EV9. So that's what I think. There we go. The window line here, just the way it kind of spears up there. Now, this is the bit here I was talking about, the little insta. There's a sort, it's difficult to see in this matte finish, but there's a line that just sort of comes down here like that. That reminds me a little bit of the Hyundai Insta's sort of like rear, sort of like wheel arch sort of design. I really like that. And again, it's just that nod to it. It looks a little bit Kona-like at the front. There's a little bit of the Insta there. And then you've got some of the sharp, sort of like, you know, curvy streamliner style of the Ioniq 6, but it's not just a big Ioniq 6 or an Ioniq 5, is it? It's its own character, and I think it looks fabulous. But wait till you see the best bit, which for me is the back. Look at it. Looks brilliant. Bear with me, very Volvo-esque maybe, you know, just the way these lights, you know, these tall lights, and the way they just have that little shoulder kink there. Bit like an old Volvo V70, I think, actually. But the whole light thing, look, it's a big loop around the back. I love that. That's good. So your high level brake light there, and then your tall vertically stacked tail lamps there. Absolutely brilliant. And then really flush glazing, sort of like as it comes down the tailgate. And then the Ioniq 9 nomenclature embossed into the rear. That looks fabulous. The Hyundai badge is in the glass. That I love. And I also love the fact there's a rear wiper on the car, but you can't see it because it's tucked right up underneath there. Brilliant. Well done, Hyundai. That is a brilliant piece of design. You've also got a couple of cameras as well. There's a camera there. There isn't one up there. It's there's another camera in there somewhere, but they've neatly integrated it. The other thing they've neatly integrated is the boot release. Oh, it took me ages to find it. It's just that little button. You just press it and the boot lid goes up. And of course, tailgate comes right down to bumper level. But here's our pixels again. Look. You know, reversing lamp there, and of course your fog lamps down at the bottom there, they're all pixelated. And again, like the front, the reversing sensors neatly integrated into that black strip so they don't stand stand out too much. What do you think? I love it. I really do. I really think it looks quite stylish. It looks fantastic. Even this little Beetle thing looks like it's enjoying itself on there. Off you go. It looks brilliant, I think. I really do. And I just love the way that Hyundai have just got the design laid out, as I say, like that chessboard. You know, every car has its own individuality, its own personality, but they all play for the same team. And that's what I love about the Ioniq 9. I think it looks fantastic. If I'm being blunt about it, if I'm being absolutely blunt about it, I think I probably prefer the EV9 though. I'd love that car. I love the blocky style of the EV9, how it reminds me of the old 1980s SUVs, you know, like Mitsubishi Shoguns and Land Cruisers and Troopers and stuff like that. But this is running at a really close second. I really like what Hyundai have done with this. But it doesn't matter what I think, because I'm not buying the car, but you might be. So what do you think about it? Would you have this over, I don't know, Land Rover Discovery, or a BMW iX, or a Mercedes-Benz EQE SUV, or an Audi Q8 e-tron? Would you plump for a Hyundai because of the way it looks? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. This is where the Ioniq 9 really comes into its own, I think. You can have it as either a 7-seater or a 6-seater. I'll talk about the different configurations a little bit later. But here's the thing, even with that third row of seats in place, we can still get all 4 AutoEV suitcases in the back of the car. Now, Hyundai say this is 338 litres of boot space, but I have a funny feeling that would be up to the backs of the rear seats, not to the roof. But look at that, because of the design of the rear of the car, all 4 suitcases fit in with all 3 rows of seats in place. Plus, more space down the side here, because I've got my camera bag down in there. And I could put another rucksack in there as well. So I've got a large, a medium, and 2 carry-ons in place with all 3 rows of seats in place. That's fantastic, absolutely fantastic. But it's not just the volume which is impressive, it's all the other stuff that does it for me as well. So if I take these out, and I'll just show you, because if you fold down the 3rd row, it goes up to 908 litres. Now again, I think that is up to sort of like the parcel shelf, which you do get. You get a roller blind as well. But that's a huge amount of space with all seats in place. And don't think for a second that third row of seats isn't going to be fit for man or beast. It's only for kids, because I'll show you that a little bit later on. Now, the calligraphy model, you get the electric folding rear seats, okay? So you press the button on the side there, and they fold down. Okay, it takes a wee bit of time, but that's quite nice, the fact that you don't have to have a degree in mechanical engineering to fold them up. So as I say, that now is a huge amount of space there. I mean, obviously we'll get all 4 suitcases in there, plus more. But it's the other thing is this. See this carpet? I couldn't figure it out, but look, when your seats are folded down, that's rubber backed, and you can fold that to cover them, to protect them. But you can also flip it round, because there on that side it's rubber. So that's Skoda level of thinking as far as I'm concerned. Do you know what I mean? So you can actually cover the backs of the seats when the third, if you're not using the third row, with either carpet or with a rubber mat, so it doesn't get damaged. Brilliant thinking, Hyundai, I love that. Plus, underneath here, there is a small bit of storage. Plus, you can also then fit the roller blind in here. So if you want to just store that out of the way, because you say you're going to the tip on a Sunday afternoon, like I should be today, I can't get that off. But you can store the roller blind underneath there. It fits neatly into there, and then plus it's a flat load entry in. Plus it's not that massively high. I'm only 5'8". I could sit on that. That's excellent. Plus it's got vehicle to load, so I've got a 3-pin socket in the back. So if you were using it, I don't know, you're going away camping with the kids or something, you know, and you want to plug a kettle in, or a, you know, an electric barbecue style thing, you can power it off that, or a generator. Plus there's a 12-volt socket over that side. Plus there's load lashing points as well. It's just a really practical car, and I really like that. And I really like, you know, just a simple thing like that piece of carpet that just concertinas out to protect the backs of the seats when they're down. But what a huge amount of space. Even this isn't too bad, you know, in terms of sort of like the actual aperture of getting stuff in. So if you were going to buy, I don't know, a new dishwasher or a fridge or something, you know, that's big enough, you could get it loaded in there. I think this is an amazingly practical car. You also get front storage as well. 52 litres, which is decent, because that means you can also store your charging cables underneath here, the luggage net, you know, your TAR mobility kit underneath here as well. So that's an added bonus for you as well. You know, plus it's big enough, and it's not that awkwardly shaped. You know, you could chuck a pair of wellies in there if you weren't carrying that stuff, or a, you know, a muddy Barber jacket or something if you're out walking the dog. Now, the other thing to discuss is towing capability. If you go for the single motor rear wheel drive car, it will tow a braked trailer up to 1600 kilos. But if you go for this all wheel drive version, then you can tow up to 2500 kilos of a brake trailer. But just watch your weights, because this is a heavy car, and if you're adding on a big sort of heavy caravan or trailer onto the back of that, just be careful. Now, normally when I'm sort of like reviewing 7-seater cars for the third row, I've got to be, well, basically humiliate myself for trying to squeeze myself in the back. Not so much with this. So this is a 6-seat car. Now, you can only get the 6-seat configuration if you go for the top spec calligraphy. And there's a couple of different options with that as well, because you can have different style seats on the 6-seater one, where there's like ones where you can swivel them round and they've got massage functions. This car doesn't have it, okay? So this is just a standard 6-seat option on the calligraphy model. But if you go for either the premium or the ultimate, you can't have the 6-seat. They'll all be 7-seaters. And in fairness, I would think that that's probably the better option for most UK buyers. They're probably going to want the 7-seat car. That probably makes the most sense. Excuse me, but in saying that, my daughter loves the fact that you've got that separate seats in the back. However, anyway, so you fold the seat forward by pressing a button on here, and that slides that right forward. But watch. I mean, that is just stepping in, isn't it? There's no clambering or undignified sort of like entry or exit. Now, there's the seat back in its original position. I'm 5'8". I have got plenty of, and that seat can be slid forward. That's still quite far back, because even though it doesn't have the swivel seats, you can slide the seats backwards and forwards to give more room to the third row passengers. And these seats, I tell you what, okay, they're maybe a little bit short in the squab, but your feet don't, you know, you're not sitting with your knees round your chin. Look at the headroom I've got. I appreciate I'm only 5'8". I could wear a hat in here. And this is a car where the roofline really slopes down at the back. Remember I was saying about the design, the way the almost a teardrop shape at the back. There's bags of headroom here. So you don't feel like, you know, sort of like in economy class when you're stuck away back here. You do feel like you're in a really good rear bench of a car. But that's not all you get, because you've also got charging port here as well, either side, little USB-C port there. You've also got electric recline. This is on the calligraphy in fairness. Electric recline of those seats. Look at that, that's lovely, isn't it? Plus I've got 2 cup holders as well. And I've got a little vent at the top here as well, you know, to help with airflow. And I don't feel claustrophobic, because this, again, this is the good sized piece of glass, even though the design is phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. As a 7-seater car, as a big family car, you know, I mean, it's using all of its space. And this is the thing with the eGMP platform as well, because it's a bespoke electrical platform. There's no exhausted package or anything, so you've got a completely flat floor. I could walk through into the second row. I wouldn't have to actually tip the seat forward. You could walk through from the rear into the sort of the second row as well. That is absolutely sensational, I think. So to say, the only thing you just feel, as I say, the squab is just a tiny bit shorter than a normal seat. Other than that, there is absolutely nothing to complain about back here. One thing I should have mentioned when we were in the boot, by the way, is if you fold all the seats down and you've got using all this, it takes the total luggage capacity up to just under 2,500 litres, which is effectively a van. This is good. Now, remember saying I don't normally like you to see my undignified entry and exit. Watch this. This is what I mean. That slides forward and you've literally just step out. Absolutely brilliant. Right, anyway, let's slide that seat back. There we go. So that is my driving position, okay? So let me just tilt this seat back a little bit. It has gone a bit more upright. So you can recline this seat. There you go. Bags of space. The second row does feel like you've got more of that stadium style seating, so you do sit quite up and you can really see across the top of the front seats. But like I said, you can slide that forward. I mean, that's it in its most forward position, and I still have room. You know, you get somebody very tall behind me there, no problem at all. So there's a huge range of adjustment on these seats. Now, again, as I say, there's a couple of different options when it comes to the rear seats of the car. You can have them where they can swivel round and face the rear, or you can have it as a bench. I think most people will have it as the bench and the standard seats. But you can have, you've got the nice armrests that come down. You know, the 2 sort of captain's chairs here, which is fantastic. There's bags of storage in here as well. You've got a cup holder in the door bin there, or bottle holder I should say. There's 2 bottle holders further up in the door, so you can get 3 bottles stored in each door. And then you've also got mat pockets on the backs of the front seats. Then you've also got this, a massive drawer that slides out from underneath the centre console to put all your bits and pieces in, all your sweeties and stuff like that. And you've also got 3-zone climate control as standard. So you've also got, you know, temperature and fan speed can be adjusted for the back as well. Plus you've got heated seats. If you go for any model in the back, but then if you go to the calligraphy, these also get ventilation as well. So this is a heated and ventilated rear seat. Plus you've got this massive big opening panoramic glass sunroof as well, which floods the cabin in with light. Plus as well, so I'll just move that case there. Look, you can also flip up the centre armrest lid, so you can get access in there. So you can nick your dad's sweeties. Just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Oh, they've also got USB-C ports on the backs of the front seats as well. Plus as well, if you're sitting over on this side, remember, like most Hyundai cars, you can actually move the seat forward. So if you need a bit more space and there's no one on the passenger side, you can move that seat as well. Do you need anything bigger than this, really? Because if you do, I'd question what you are doing having that many kids. You're not the Von Trapps. Stop it. This is enough for most people. Right. Up front. Now, there's some cracks start to appear here, if I'm being blunt about it, and I'll get on to that in a second. But let's just talk, well, there's good and bad stuff here, so let's talk about the good stuff first. Let's be positive, shall we? The interior. First of all, I really like the design of it, okay? I really like the design of this. Of course, you've got your usual 12.3-inch twin screens here, which are curved in one sort of like big display across the dashboard here. Really nice and easy to use. Look, there are faster and better infotainment systems available, but generally speaking, it's pretty much what we've been used to with Hyundai up till now. So there's no real surprises here. They have added, this is the first car that gets their AI integration. So for voice activation, you can do things such as the climate control, navigation, and things like restaurant recommendations as well. And you also get various different sort of like entertainment packages, which you can add in here as well. You know, sort of YouTube and various different pieces like that. But as I say, it's all very easy to use. It's very sort of like straightforward. As we've seen it with Hyundai across their other cars. There are better cars out there. There are worse cars out there. Okay. Oh, you also get, now standard equipment wise, I should say, you even on the lead-in premium, I don't want to call it basic because it's not. So the lead-in premium model, so you go premium, ultimate, and calligraphy. So premium still gets heated and ventilated front seats, obviously things like Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, heated steering wheel, you get cruise control, more advanced driving systems than you can shake a stick at, you know, all of that kind of thing. So all of that is standard on the car. You've got things, then you move up into the ultimate model that gets the big panoramic sunroof. It gets leather seats, whereas on the lead-in model it's cloth and leather. Then you move up to calligraphy like this car, and you get ergo motion seats that you also get in the ultimate model. So in other words, you've got the seats that can sort of like, you know, cup you underneath the legs, and you can sort of like sit back and relax and all that kind of thing. It also gets a special sort of like sterilization tray, UVC sterilization. You can chuck your phone in it and zap it and it'll do all that kind of thing. So there are various little nice, and Bose audio system, that type. So all of that kind of stuff just adds on to it. But even the lead-in car is very well equipped as standard. So there's nothing wrong with the way that it actually performs in that sense. And as I say, I like the design of it. Your driver information display again is very similar to what we've seen before, and obviously you can do various different things, like you can change this, like the center section there to show you different bits and pieces like trip meter, you know, sort of like compass if you're using your route activity, navigation, plus your ADAS systems there. Okay, that's fine. Let me just address these mirrors first of all, okay, before we move on to anything else. Let me just turn that down. These mirrors, okay, they're £1,000 option, okay? No one does these digital mirrors well in my book, okay? I liked them on the little Honda E because they were way down the door, and the screen was where you expect to find a mirror. So as soon as you draw your eye across to where you think a mirror's going to be, there was a screen there. That's the only one that's ever really been any good to my eyes. The Audi ones with the big stalks out the side, and even the original ones on the Hyundai, these are better because they've moved the screen up the door a little bit, so it now is pretty much where you expect to see a mirror. And the actual sort of like cameras on the doors, they're much slimmer, they're much better, so they don't quite catch your eye as much. However, two things with them. The first thing is, it takes you a little while to focus in on them, okay? They are adjustable, so you can adjust them on a control, you know, like a normal mirror control on the door there, okay? But to me, the passenger one doesn't go far enough up. The other thing is, I say, it just takes you a little while to focus in. The problem with it is as well, is especially if you're a little bit, you know, short of sight like I am in some respects, because the depth of field on them is really confusing. Now at the moment, and I'm sorry to bleat on about my personal issues, but I was doing my garden the other day, so I've got one of those big garden refuse sacks that I've put on the driveway that I need to take to the tip later on, okay? So it's narrowed the sort of like entrance into my driveway a little bit. So I was driving it in there, reversing it the other day. It took me ages just to really focus on how far away it was, you know, because it's quite a tight entrance that I've made now for myself. And then of course, as you're reversing in, because you think you've got it right, the rear camera picks up and going, oh, you're going to hit something, and it boom, slams the brakes on. Just stop it, you know, it's just not needed. Save yourself £1,000. Do not go for these mirrors. Just stick with standard door mirrors, okay? They're okay, but they're still not, to me, it's the answer to a question nobody has ever asked. There's nothing wrong with a reflective piece of glass. Save yourself £1,000. Spend it on taking your other half out for a decent meal one night. Don't bother with this. What a faff they are. They're better than they were, but they're still a faff. And I don't think they look particularly nice. I just don't think they look that nice. My mother-in-law was in the car the other day, and she's going, what's all that about? Even she was like, you know, I don't understand why you'd need that. And I thought, well, yeah, you're right. So that's the first thing. Don't bother with that. The second thing is this. This is the problem I have with this car. the quality, not the build quality, okay, because everything feels solid, just the quality of the materials. This is an £80,000 car, and look at all this silver plastic. And it just doesn't feel that nice. It's not shiny, but it's got like a kind of matte finish to it. And it just, I don't know, it just doesn't feel that nice. It certainly doesn't look nice. This is the problem I've got with it. You know, and it's all, just feels cheap. You know, the plastic, you know, the controls that are here, they just feel cheap to use. Now, Hyundai, come on, you're part of, you know, a large group. You know, Kia get it right, and Kia bleat on about the sustainability more. You know, the fact that there's all recycled plastics, and this is what, and you can, you know, research what they've made it from. Genesis, your luxury brand, these are beautiful to use. Why are they so horrible feeling in a Hyundai? Honestly, I'd criticise this if it was a Kona, you know, at £30,000. So I'm sure as hell going to criticise it on an £80,000 Ioniq 9. That's not good enough. I genuinely do feel that. I think it really lets down what is a really nicely designed interior. I really like the design of it. But just the feel of it, it doesn't feel nice. And all this silver plastic around here, you know, and down in the centre console. The door handles feel horrible. You know, they just do. They're circular, and that's a touch point. You know, you get out of the car by pulling that, and it feels like it's going to come off in your hand. £80,000. Come on, Hyundai, you've got to step the game up. And your other brands within the group do it better. Why aren't you doing it better? That's a real letdown for me, that, and I've got to really say that. I'm sorry. I love the rest of it, but that to me, and it's glaringly obvious when you sit in here. And silver, for God's sake, you know, that looked awful when it was the silver plastic you used to get in the Chrysler Crossfire. Do you remember that? That was like the old Mercedes switchgear, and they went, let's paint it silver so it looks different. It looked shit there, it looks shit in this, honestly. And then you've got this calligraphy sort of like veneer thing in here, which looks like it looks like a 1990s bathroom. Don't know what that's all about. It looks like they've tried to do like a marble finish in it. It just doesn't look right. Honestly, this could have been better. The execution of this could have been better. But the build qualities, etc. That's what I'm saying. The build quality, you know, nothing, you know, it doesn't move around in your hand or anything like that. Everything feels well screwed down. And you've got some soft touch materials on the top of the dashboard. You've got Napa leather on the seats of this. This is a calligraphy model. And then it just looks cheap next to this. You know, so you've got really expensive leather on the seats, but then it just looks cheap next to all this silver plastic. Anyway, there we go. That's my beef with it. Other than that, I really like the interior of the car. It's a nice, good driving position. You know, again, look, sorry to go on. You've got this nice sort of like almost wool-like headlining, which is gorgeous to touch. You know, Bose sound system. You know, all is great. Why does that look so awful? Anyway, there we go. A couple of other little things. You've got a digital mirror. Remember I was telling you before there's another camera at the back. So if we piled all those suitcases up, or you had 7 people in, you can flip the mirror so it's now the digital view. That's the digital camera mirror thing I don't mind. That, because you can flip between the two. So if no one else is in the car, you can use it as a conventional mirror. If you're full up with people, you flip it to a camera view and it's directly behind you. So that's good. That's excellent. And as I say, you've got a really good driving position. The seats are really nice, very comfortable seats. They hold you just right. Really nice round, you know, leather steering wheel that's heated as standard. You get the nice physical controls on the steering wheel as well. The ADAS systems are really easy to turn off, as you expect with Hyundai and Kia. So you I think it's 3-second press on the volume switch, and it cancels the speed limit warning, and then your lane keep assist is this button here. So again, that's nice and easy to use as well. You get a driver attention monitor there, as you do with most cars now, so that's there. Just watch that, because again, if you're driving like that, it starts to shout at you because you've got your hand, it's blocking your face. So if you do drive like that occasionally, you know, it'll tell you that you're doing something wrong. There's no transmission lever here because it's on the wand style that you get on the Ioniq 5, so you twist it all the way forward for drive, all the way back for reverse, and the stop start button is now on there. It's not a button on here like it used to be. Now, storage is phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. So we've got this center console here, which actually will move. Sorry, I've just bumped the camera. So you can slide this forward and back. It's got 190 millimeters of direction of movement. So if you want more space at the front for you and the passenger, and maybe the kids are using it to store the stuff. Remember, it's got that double hinge box. You can slide into the back for them, or you can slide it all the way forward for you, so it's more of a separation, although there is still a flat floor in here, and more of an armrest. That's excellent. You've then got this lift up box, okay, the lift up lid. I don't know if I do it this way if it's easier for you to see it, okay, and you think, oh, that's quite deep, but then you can remove the centre console. How deep that is! That's amazing. I think they say it's over 5 litres of storage. That must be more than 5 litres. I can get my whole arm in there. I'd lose my dog in there. Not that I put him in there, obviously. And then, of course, you can just pop that little tray back in there, he says. So that's superb. That's not all though, however, because then you've got this tray here, which is also a wireless charging pad, that's here as well. Plus as well, you've also got a little cubby underneath it as well, which takes more stuff. So you can pop your sunnies in there, or if you're leaving the car, you can chuck your wallet and your keys in there. And then you've got a tray in front of the passenger. Then you've also got a really big glove box as well, plus door bins, plus, as I say, 2 cup holders here. So as a family car, in terms of storage, you know, you're going to get all the sweeties for, you know, your long trips. You're driving down to Cornwall with the kids and you're chucking all the, you know, the Starbucks and things like that in there. There's plenty of room. You can charge 2 mobiles up. You know, there's plenty of space for all your sunnies and wallets and stuff like that. Plus, you know, your drinks, your coffee and your water bottle as well. So can't complain about the storage. And as I say, I love the design of it. I genuinely do. And the standard equipment count is really, really high. It's just for me, it just lets it down with this cheap silver plastic. And I don't know why they've done it. And they should have done better than this. You've got the little pixels on the steering wheel as well, which illuminate. I think they illuminate if you're in, you know, when you're reversing as well, to let you know they go red if you're getting close to something. And I think they also illuminate as you charge as well, which is quite cool. Oh, sorry, the one thing I've completely forgot to mention is, you know, Kia, how they've got their digital display as well, like this, and then but the centre bit is the climate control. Hyundai have put a separate climate control panel down here, which is actually quite good. So, you know, you've got your control for temperature either side there. Your fan speed is a touch. Okay, it's a touch there, but it's dead easy to use. And then direction control is the same, and then heated seats and ventilated seats there on that touch panel as well. So I like the fact you've got a lot of physical control still. You know, and again, you've got shortcut buttons up here. So from there, if you want to go straight to map, you just press that, and there your map comes up, okay? You want to go to your media, you just press that, and then, you know, your media comes up, your radio comes up, or whatever, and then you've got track search, setup, and then a home button, and physical volume and tuning controls there. That's all good. I like all of that. But again, it's just the cheap feeling plastic that they've used. It really lets it down. So it's a real shame, as I say. It's a brilliant interior, it's a well-designed interior, a well thought out interior, just executed quite badly with some really cheap materials, especially at this price point. Now, there's just one battery that's available across all the Ioniq 9 range, and it's a 110 kilowatt hour one. It's bigger than you get out of an EV9, which is good. Now, Hyundai say, in terms of the rear-wheel drive car, the single-motor rear-wheel drive car, that's the most efficient. That'll do up to 385 miles according to WLTP tests. But even if you go for this dual-motor calligraphy on the big wheels, that only drops to 372 miles, that WLTP figure. That's not bad. You know, so there's no real penalty for having the dual-motor car in some respects, or the higher spec car. Charging speeds. Now, they say using a 350 kilowatt charger because it's 800 volt architecture that the car has. Now, it won't take charging speeds of 350 kilowatts, but it will take 250 kilowatts. So if you're using one of those ultra rapid 350 kilowatt chargers, you know, that you get from Ionity, you'll go from your benchmark 10 to 80% in just 24 minutes, which is brilliant because obviously it's quite a large battery. You also get an onboard 11 kilowatt charger as standard. So if you are fortunate enough to have your 3-phase electricity at home and you've got one of those faster wall boxes, then you're going to go from from flat to full in around about 10 hours. But if it's a more likely 7 kilowatt wall box that you've got, like I have, because of the size of battery, a flat to full time on one of those is 17 hours. So just be aware of that. Although most people won't run it to absolutely empty, which is fair enough. Now also you get vehicle to load as standard. Remember I showed you there was the 3-pin socket in the back there as well. So there's vehicle to load as standard on the car as well. So as well as that, plus your onboard 11 kilowatt onboard charging, you also get a heat pump as standard on the car as well. Now, there are various different power levels you can have on the Ioniq 9, although not in every model. So if you were to go for the premium, for instance, the lead-in car, then it only comes in a single motor, rear-wheel drive, 217 PS output, and that's 0 to 60 in 9.5 seconds. Now, I've not driven it, but from what I hear, it is quite ponderous. It does feel a little bit slow. So you've got to really move up to the all-wheel drive car, and there's 2 of those available. So you either get the 307 PS car, which gives you a 0 to 60 time in about 6.5 seconds, which is probably the one I would say is going to be the sweet spot in the range. That's about right for this size of car. You'll need that level of power, plus you get all-wheel drive, you know, because it's a big old car, this. Then you can go up, if you feel that that's not enough and you need a bit more performance, then there's the 420 PS performance driveline available in the calligraphy, which is what this car is, and that will bring the 0 to 60 time down under 5 seconds. That's probably a little bit of overkill if I'm being blunt about it. Now don't get me wrong, it feels quick. The problem then comes is the other stuff that then has to then go along with performance, which is control, and I feel it's just lacking a little bit in a couple of areas, and it's a little bit disappointing in some respects. The first thing that I will say is the steering feels quite slow. It feels quite heavy and slow. There's a lot of arm twirling needed in this car. Now this is a big car, okay? You know, in terms of its physicality, it is a big car. You know, so if you're turning it around in the office car park or backing it into your driveway or whatever, you know, you've got to roar. Yeah, there's a lot of arm twirling going on. This is a car that would benefit hugely from 4-wheel steering. It really would. This would make a world of difference to the manoeuvrability of this car, and it would just sharpen things up a little bit. You know, I'm not suggesting it needs to be a sports car, and I don't think Hyundai are expecting it to be seen as that. I think, you know, there's an element of them want it to be seen as more of a refined, more of a luxury style of car than that. But then that brings up the other problem I've got, which is the ride quality, because again, what it doesn't have, and I think it needs, is air suspension. It's a bit of a surprise, that. So what you have is McPherson struts with double lower arms at the front and a 5-link multi-link setup at the rear. Okay, now obviously you've got different wheel sizes depending on the trim level you go for, starting on the 19-inch wheels that you get with the premium, and then the 20s with the ultimate, and then this is on 21s. I don't think it's going to make a world of difference, you know, in terms of the actual ride quality, but it just feels a little bit unsettled at times, you know, when you're going over broken surfaces, which, let's be fair, there is a lot of in the UK. You know, you go on to sort of like, you know, a different or change of surface, you know, you go into a heavily sort of like corrugated concrete sort of like section, like we've got an M25 around here. You know, you can just hear more of it and feel more of it than you should in a car like this. Here, see, it's just that you can feel it all through the chassis. You can feel it, the unsettledness of it, and I just wanted it to be a little bit better than that, because the rest of the refinement, you know, when you're up at speed, is really good. You know, there's active noise cancelling going on in here. It's very quiet. You've got laminated side glass, you know, to keep all. There was obviously concentrated a lot in sort of like wheel arch areas and things like that, you know, to deaden all the noise down. And they've done really well with that. So it's a shame that they've sort of like missed sort of like the focus on the main element of the suspension, which just makes it feel a little bit too jiggly, a little bit too unsettled. You know, especially for a car of this weight, because as I say, remember, it's a heavy car. You know, it should feel a bit more planted, whereas it just jiggles around a bit too much. And I just felt it should be better. I just feel there should be an element about it that's a little bit better. On saying all of that, that is really the only thing I can really truly criticise in some respects the drive of the car with, because the rest of it is actually quite nice. But they're two quite fundamental things, I think. You know, when you're talking of a car this size, you know, just to feel a really heavy steering that, you know, and I say, it's not a case of not feeling like a sports car, it's just, you just need to get, oh yeah, I need a little bit more on there. It's like a big boat, you need to really, yeah, let's get it around into the harbour, you know. That's how it feels. And that jiggliness in the suspension, especially for a family car, especially when you've got, you know, you and, you know, 5 or 6 other passengers in the car, it should be a bit better. Anyway, there we go. That's the two things I'm going to that really draw criticism from me, if you like. Yeah. See there, you know, oh, the car coming. There's just a little bit too much, you know, needed to get the car hooked into the bend, and that's just a shame. Right, quiet though. Very quiet. I like the refinement you get in the car. I'm off to France in a few days' time. We're off on a couple of weeks' holiday down to France. Don't worry, there's plenty of films coming out. You're still going to have the AutoEV content. Trust me on that. There's loads still to see. So make sure you're subscribed. Like, comment, subscribe. And it is a car, I must admit, you know, considering the amount of stuff we take, you know, for the 3 of us plus the dog, this would be perfect for that. But I guarantee you, you know, even on the sort of rougher areas of France, you'd certainly feel that ride quality not being so great. And just there's that little undulation there where you can just feel it just not settled down. Anyway, that's by the by. Right, brakes. Brakes are quite good, and of course you've got different levels of brake regeneration available to you via the paddles behind the steering wheel. See there, I shouldn't really need to cross my arms on that roundabout. Depending obviously on what you want, you've got level, it's either off completely where the car will coast, and this will be quite good because it's such a heavy car, this will coast for quite a distance with your foot off everything. Or you can have level 1, 2, 3, and then you've got I pedal, which is the maximum, and that's where it also uses sort of like, you know, the cameras at the front just to make sure there's nothing in front, or if there is, it will start to slow it all down. Yeah, so you've got all of that. So the brakes are good, and also as well, if you're not using them, I forgot about this width restriction. This is a big old car and I've got a camera stuck to the side of it. If you've got the if you've not got the brake regen on and you're using the brake pedal itself, there's a decent amount of feel from it, so that's excellent. And again, hauling up a big car like this is important. I want to talk a bit more about these digital mirrors, because as I said to you earlier, they just take a little bit too much time to focus on them. That's the problem with these. And as I say, whilst they're not on the big stocks like they used to be on the Hyundais and like they are on the Audis, and the screens are in more of a natural mirror position, again, your eye just takes just that few seconds too much to focus on the depth. It's just so difficult to gauge the depth of it. So honestly, they're not worth the £1,000 that they are as an option. And actually, I don't think they look that nice on the outside. I don't actually think they look quite nice, these things stuck to the side of the doors. Maybe I'm old-fashioned. Maybe I just like to see a set pair of mirrors. So I wouldn't bother with them. The driving position, however, is very good. You sit really up in the car. As much as I like my seat low, you sit really high in the car, so it's a really good commanding driving position you get in the car. There's a good range of adjustment on the seat. The seats are excellent. As I said earlier, these ergo motion seats that you get in the car, absolutely superb. So there's a really nice driving position. Lovely round steering wheel, just, you know, electrically adjustable on this model as well for reach and rake. So you get a really clear driving position, which has also got memory as well. That's excellent. So all of that is good. The screens and the layout of the dashboard, as I said, they're fairly much what you expect from Hyundai, and even, you know, if you had to stretch the faraway corner of that screen, it's doable from the driver's seat. But remember, you've also now got Hyundai sort of like AI voice activation as well in this car as well. The physical controls down here, they're all nice within easy reach, and as I say, you've just got this really comfortable driving position. As I say, you can slide that console all the way back if you want, or have it all the way forward and have more of an armrest, and that's really good, and plenty of storage. Lots of ADAS systems on the car, so your usual things such as your speed limit warning, your lane keep assist, your emergency brake assist, you know, rear cross traffic alert, that type of thing. All of that's there, and they're nice and easy to get to and change things if you really want to. So bit of a double-edged sword for me, because there's a lot of it is to like, you know, huge parts of this car is there to be liked, and it's yet another good car from Hyundai, another good electric car from Hyundai. There's just the two things on the drive that really disappoint, which is, I say, that slightly unsettled ride and the slow steering response. That's it. If that could just get sharpened up, as I say, four-wheel steering and air suspension would transform this car into being, you know, sort of a much better car. So from the driving point of view, that would make a world of difference. As it is, however, in terms of a big, comfortable, spacious, practical electric SUV, I tell you what, they've done really, really well. You know, I always, you know, the Kia EV9 for me is a fantastic car, and I've done loads of miles behind the EV9. You know, sorry, from the driver's seat of the EV9. I've been through France in one, I've been up and down various bits of the, you know, the UK, and I'd love to do a really, really proper long drive in the Ioniq 9, just to really feel what it's like in comparison with that car. But as it is, whilst it's refined, whilst it's comfortable from the driver's seat, whilst there's a lot to like about it, there's also a couple of big glaring flaws with it, and it just takes the shine off the car for me a little bit. And that's before we've discussed the shiny plastic, which is in my face all the time by sitting here. So in terms of the way the car drives, it's good, but it could and should be better. Right, price. Now you need to be a bit careful here, because you can't have all trim levels with all drivetrains, okay? There's only certain combinations that you can have, and I think that's a little bit of a shame, because if you were to turn around and say, well look, the premium trim level is good enough, it's got all the equipment I need on it, that's all I want, but the sort of like the rear wheel drive single motor car isn't quick enough, I want a bit more power than that, or I need all wheel drive. You can't have the premium with an all-wheel drive drivetrain, and I think that's a real shame. You've got to make quite a big step up to get that, you know, the next model up. So the range kicks off with that rear-wheel drive premium at 64,995. Okay, so if you do want all-wheel drive and the more powerful 307 PS drivetrain, you need to jump up to the next spec, which is the Ultimate. Okay, and that is 73,495. Okay, so it's quite a big jump, that. Also as well, it means that you can't have that Ultimate spec with just the rear wheel drive. You've got to have it as all-wheel drive. Anyway, there we go. The calligraphy is next. Now you can have the calligraphy, however, as both of the all-wheel drive drivetrains. So you can have it as either the 307 PS drivetrain, and that will cost you 75,795. Okay, if you then want to go up to the 427 PS performance drivetrain that this car is, then that's 77,595 in 7-seat format, or 78,595 in 6-seat format. So pay more, get less, obviously. And again, the calligraphy is the only one you can get the 6-seat layout in. So again, if you said, actually I quite like the 6-seat layout, but all I need is the premium, tough, can't have it. You've got to spend that near £80,000 to get that. There we go. Now, as tested, what have I got here? So I've got a 6-seater calligraphy, which again is in that 427 PS, because you can only get the 6-seater with that 427 PS drivetrain. Don't know why. And that means, so we've got a starting price there of that £78,500, onto which you had to add £1,000 for the digital side mirrors, which is a waste of time and a waste of money as far as I'm concerned, and then this matte silver paint finish, which, okay, I actually don't mind it. It's not my favourite colour on the car, but actually it's fair enough. I don't mind it too much. I don't normally like these matte finishes, but that's an option you don't have to have. This car, as tested, is £80,730, so just a tickle under 81 grand, as you see sitting here. But you do also get, in some form of compensation, Hyundai's 5-year unlimited mileage warranty with that. But it is nearly £81,000. Right, competition. Well, obviously, your main competition for the car is coming from Kia with the EV9. That is the main competitor for this car. It sits on the same platform. Slightly smaller battery than this, which makes me wonder whether or not Kia is going to update that car. Go with a slightly bigger battery soon. So maybe watch this space. But that car is certainly its closest rival. And if you need another 7-seat, all-wheel drive, electric premium SUV, then you've got to look at a slightly more expensive option with things such as the Volvo EX90 and of course the Mercedes-Benz EQS SUV. Now that is well into six figures, that car. So in some respects, you know, if you want an all-wheel drive 7-seat SUV electric under £100,000, that's your three kind of protagonists, isn't it? This, the EV9 or the Volvo EX90, and to be fair, that Volvo's knocking on the door of six figures. If you just want the sort of like 7-seat configuration, however, that widens your choice up to include things such as the Mercedes-Benz EQV 300, you know, the people car. Quite why you'd want that, I'm not sure, but there you go, you can have that. But also remember, Volkswagen do the ID Buzz now in long wheelbase all-wheel drive form. So if that's just what you're after, maybe you might see that as a rival for this car, who knows. Or if it's not the 7 seats that you're after, it is just an electric premium badged SUV, then of course you've got things such as the BMW iX, you've got the Mercedes-Benz EQE SUV, and of course you've also got the Audi Q8 e-tron as well as the Polestar 3. So there's certainly quite a few rivals for your money at this price point, depending on what you're after. So here's what we like, and also what we don't like about Hyundai's new Ioniq 9. Well, we love its design. It's hugely spacious and very practical. Has decent range, efficiency and brilliant electrical architecture. And of course there's Hyundai's brilliant warranty package. We don't like? Well, the dynamics are a little behind the best in class. The lower trim grade is only available in single motor guise whose performance isn't quite good enough, which means you need to spend a lot more money to get to the higher trim to get the decent performance. And then for us, the cheap looking plastics in the interior look out of place on a car at that price point. Hyundai have really yet to deliver us a bad electric car. Even going back to the original Hyundai Ioniq, you know, the very first Ioniq, as it was known at the time, was a good car for if you just wanted a relatively basic get on with the job electric car. And then of course since then we've seen massive leaps with things such as the Ioniq 5, the Ioniq 6, of course the Kona and the brilliant little Insta. And this is yet another very good electric car from Hyundai. But it's not the slam dunk that I thought it was going to be. There's a little bit of me that's a bit disappointed with some elements of the Ioniq 9. And they're things that could really have been easily addressed. In terms of its dynamics, air suspension and a better calibration on that steering rack would have tidied that up. But for me, the big problem is that interior, when it comes to the plastics, it doesn't feel premium enough, especially against some of the competition that's around at this level of money. Now don't get me wrong, it is a very good car and it is a very practical car. That I do love about it. I also love the way it looks. I think it's an incredible looking thing. And you know, as I say, in terms of a family car, you don't need much more space inside than what this offers you. But for £80,000, I do expect a little bit more than shiny silver plastic inside, and that's where it just falls a bit flat for me. It would be sort of okay if you could get the better drivetrain, in other words the all-wheel drive platform, in the £65,000 premium model. I think if you could do that, it would make a little bit more sense if it was under £70,000. But at £80,000, I'm sorry Hyundai, you've just let yourself down a little bit too much. And for me, if I was looking for a big, large, 7-seat, all-electric SUV that felt special, it's going to be the EV9, because not only is it the better car to drive, I just think it's the better car overall. Thank you for watching another road test review on AutoEV. As always, please remember to make sure you are subscribed to the AutoEV channel, and then when you've done that, make sure your notifications are turned on so you get an alert when the next video is uploaded and it's gone live. If you've watched this week's review and you've enjoyed it, and also I hope you have, give it a little thumbs up for me, and of course, as always, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. What do you think? Good enough to spend £80,000 on, or are you like me, just that little bit disappointed? Would you have gone and bought the Kia EV9 instead like I would, or have you waited for this car because you like what your Hyundai are doing? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Now remember, we're also across on all social media channels as well, so if you're into your Facebook, your Instagram, your LinkedIn, your TikTok, whatever it may be, well, you'll find us there as well. So if you'd like to follow us there, we'd certainly appreciate it. And if you're in the marketplace for an electric car, maybe it's not a new Hyundai Ioniq 9, hey, maybe you're thinking about a second-hand Ioniq 5. That's a good value for money car now, and a really good car. How do you find out a little bit more about it before you go and buy it? Well, here's how. Stay on the AutoEV homepage on the YouTube channel, and just at the top there you'll find a little magnifying glass. Just type the name of the car you're interested in buying in there, and of course if it's been a new electric car in the UK in the last 6 years, then we've subjected it to the road test that actual car buyers trust when it comes to choosing their next electric vehicle, the AutoEV one. All that remains for me to say is thank you once again for watching. Thank you for your continued support. I'll see you again soon.